Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is my final recommendations video for Cloak and Dagger Christmas. I am so excited about Cloak and Dagger Christmas 2022. If you have not yet seen the my announcement video, I'll link it in the cards. I will also link the other recommendations videos that I have already posted so that you can check those out as well. For today, I will be giving recommendations for 5 gold rings, reading a mystery with foil on the cover, and for 10 lords a leaping, read a mystery with nobility in it. And then that will be the last of my recommendations because I can't give recommendations for a buddy read. I guess I could just give general mystery recommendations for the wild card read, but we're gonna stick with this. So let's start with 5 gold rings, mysteries with foil on the cover. Now this one really depends on the edition that you have. So I hope that you can find a book that has foil on the cover. I'm guessing that there could be some holiday Christmassy mysteries that have foil on the cover. That seems to go. I have a few here that I can recommend to you. This one is a mystery, but it is more of an interactive mystery. This is Could You Survive Midsomer? And so you can see the foil on the cover. This is an official Midsomer Murders interactive novel by Simon Brew. So this one is really fun. In this one, you are the investigator and you move through an investigation, and the choices you make determine whether or not you solve that murder, you solve that mystery. And this one is so much fun. I've done it already once, but I'm gonna do it again during Cloak and Dagger Christmas and see if I can do any better. I love that at the end you're given a performance review and that lets you know how well you did, and so yeah, this is just a lot of fun. Okay, next up is The Way of All Flesh by Ambrose Parry. This is the first in a series set in Edinburgh in 1847. And I really enjoyed this book. It has connections to medicine because one of our main characters is a student of medicine. He wants to become a doctor. And yeah, this cover definitely has foil on it. City of Medicine, Money, and Murder. Our main character is Will Raven. He is a medical student and he is apprenticed to Dr. Simpson, who is a real historical figure from that time period. And yeah, I really enjoyed this historical mystery. Next up, we have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And here's a perfect example of what I mean by it depends what edition you have. My edition of Rebecca has gold foil on it, but I know that there are plenty of editions that may not have gold foil on it. I love Rebecca, and I actually want to reread it again soon. It has one of kind of those famous opening sentences. Last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again. I love this. It has an unnamed protagonist. She is on the continent and she meets Mr. Winters and Mr. De Winter, sorry, and she ends up marrying him and going back to his house, Manderley, where she is constantly confronted with his first wife, Rebecca, who died. And yeah, it is gothic-y and atmospheric and fabulous. And then last but not least, we have the Justin de Quincy series by Sharon K. Penman. So this is a historical mystery series set in, this one is 1193, this one is Dragon's Lair, and this one is A Prince of Darkness. And this is a great historical mystery series, and there's actually only 4 in that series, so it's a quick read. Okay, so those are my recommendations for mysteries with foil on the cover. Let's move on because this next one I have plenty of recommendations for you, and this is for the prompt 10 Lords a Leaping. This is a mystery with nobility in it. First up is the Lady Hardcastle series by T.E. Kinsey. This is a series set in the Edwardian time period. The first book in the series is set in 1908. Our main character is Lady Hardcastle and her maid, her housekeeper, Flo. And they are such a great detective duo. I love their banter. Their banter is just so great, and these are just really fun mysteries. A Quiet Life in the Country, In the Market for Murder, Death Around the Bend, A Picture of Murder, The Burning Issue of the Day, Death Beside the Seaside, The Fatal Flying Affair, Rotten to the Core, and An Act of Foul Play. So if you want a little bit lighter of a historical mystery series, you could give that one a try. The Wrexford and Sloane series by Andrea Penrose. This is set in Regency era London. Wrexford is an earl, so that's the nobility in this story, but he pairs up with Sloane, she is, unbeknownst to pretty much everybody else, she is the satirist A.J. Quill. She continued on after her husband passed away, and it is a great series. The characters are fantastic. The setting and atmosphere are wonderful. I love that series a lot. Murder on Black Swan Lane is the first in that series, and the latest one that I am eagerly anticipating from the library is Murder at the Serpentine Bridge, and if it arrives in time, I will be reading it in December for Cloak and Dagger Christmas. Next up is the Lady Eleanor Swift series by Verity Bright. This is a historical mystery series set in England in the first one's 1919, I believe, and then the series is the early 1920s. What I love about this series is that Lady Eleanor Swift is part of the nobility. She inherits the title and the house in the first book in the series, but she has not been brought up to that kind of lifestyle. She is called in from overseas, where she spent a few years adventuring around the world, and her uncle passes away and she inherits the title and the property. And so she is someone who is not used to that level of society, and so she doesn't really know what to do with the staff at her house. And so I actually really love the relationship that she has with her staff, especially her butler, Clifford. And yeah, it's a good series. I really enjoy that series. A Very English Murder is the first one, and it is set in 1920. And there are a good number of them. Death at the Dance, which is the second one in the series, could also be doubled up with A Partridge in a Pear Tree. The Countess of Harleigh series by Dianne Freeman. This is a Victorian era historical mystery series. And Frances is the Countess of Harleigh. She's an American heiress who was married off to, an aristocrat, and he has passed away. She is now a widow. She is technically the Countess of Harleigh, which means her husband was an earl, I think. But she is a widow with a daughter, and I love this series. She's a great character. They're great mysteries, and I love the titles of this series and the covers. These are fantastic. A Lady's Guide to Etiquette and Murder, A Lady's Guide to Gossip and Murder, A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Murder, A Fiance's Guide to First Wives and Murder, A Bride's Guide to Marriage and Murder, and A Newlywed's Guide to Fortune and Murder. Like I said, a great series. Really, really well written, and good characters. Then we have the Elizabeth I series by Karen Harper. This is a series where Queen Elizabeth I is the main character, so this series definitely has nobility in it, and I really enjoyed this series. She's great. I love how she's depicted in the series. I love what we learn about the time period through the series, and I have one more left and then I'm done. So I've actually been saving it. I haven't read it yet. The Poison Garden is the first book in this series. And if you want, I think it's fine to read it out of order. If you want to read a Christmassy one, you could read The Queen's Christmas. We have Her Royal Spyness series by Rhys Bowen. This is a fun, light-hearted historical mystery series set in the 30s. Georgie is our main character, and she is the sister of an earl, I think. Her brother inherited the title. They have a castle in Scotland. So they have it, you know, they've got property and a title, but no money. And so she ends up going to London to try and make a life for herself. So Her Royal Spyness is the first in that series. There are 2 books in the series that are set in the Christmas time period, but this is a series that I would recommend you read in order. But the Christmas ones are The 12 Clues of Christmas and God Rest Ye Royal Gentlemen. Okay, and then the Stella and Lyndy series by Clara McKenna. I already mentioned the first book in this series, Murder at Mornington Hall, because it fits for the Partridge in a Pear Tree. This is set in the Edwardian time period. Stella McKendrick is an American heiress who is engaged to the Viscount Lyndy Lyndhurst. Murder at Mornington Hall is the first one, Murder at Blackwater Bend, Murder at Keyhaven Castle, and Murder at the Majestic Hotel. This one again is a really good series. A standalone, Murder Most Festive by Ada Moncrief. This is set at Christmas in 1938. The Westbury family and assorted friends have gathered together for another legendary Christmas at their Sussex mansion. As family tensions simmer on Christmas Eve, the champagne flows, the silver sparkles, and upstairs the bedrooms are made up, ready for their occupants. But one bed will lie empty that night. I read this a couple years ago and really enjoyed it. It is a really fun historical mystery set in the holiday season. Then we have the Daisy Dalrymple series by Carola Dunn. There are 23 books in this series. It is set in the 1920s, and the Honorable Daisy Dalrymple is our main character. If you want to read a Christmassy one from this series, you could read Mistletoe and Murder, which is the 11th in the series, and you could double up prompts because that would also fit for A Partridge in a Pear Tree. This is a series that I don't think you need to read this one necessarily in order, and so if you want to just read the Christmas one and see if you like it, go for it. Blue Satan and Mrs. Keene, that series by Patricia Wynne. Blue Satan is the name of a highwayman, but in real life, he is the Viscount St. And this is a series that is set in the Georgian era. The first book is The Birth of Blue Satan, where the Viscount St. Mars is accused of his father's murder and he is on the run. And in order to disguise himself and still be able to investigate his father's murder, he becomes the highwayman Blue Satan, known as Blue Satan. And he is helped by housekeeper Mrs. Keene. And again, this is a great time period. I love the Georgian setting with really interesting information about the time period, and it's a really good series. The Sebastian St. series by C.S. Harris. The nobility in this one is our main character, the Viscount Devlin. He is the son of an earl. You also have Hero's father, who is the cousin of the Prince Regent. His name is Lord Jarvis. He is such a good character. There are 18 books in this series, and What Angels Fear is the first book in the series. This is a series I recommend that you read in order, and I love this series so much. It is set in the Regency time period. It is so good. There is such great historical detail. The characters and the character development in this series is fantastic. I really, really love that series. Okay, the Ursula Blanchard series by Fiona Buckley. Ursula is a lady-in-waiting and spy in the court of Elizabeth I. There are 21 books in the series. To Shield the Queen is the first one. A Pawn for a Queen and A Deadly Betrothal. I've really enjoyed this series, but I haven't read it in a long time, and I haven't finished it either. So this is a series that I'd like to go back to the beginning and start and read through again. The Face Down series, I call it, by Kathy Lynn Emerson. The main character here is Susanna, Lady Appleton. And this is a series also set in the Elizabethan time period. Face Down in the Marrowbone Pie is the first book in this series. And again, Lady Susanna is asked by the Queen to investigate various things. Face down upon an herbal, face down among the Winchester geese, face down beneath the Eleanor cross. That's why I call it the Face Down series, because every book has face down something in the title. And then last but not least is the Inspector Lynley series by Elizabeth George. Just to prove that you don't have to read a historical mystery to fit this prompt. These are set in modern day London. There are 21 books in this series. And Inspector Lynley is the 8th Earl of Asherton. So there is definitely nobility in this series, and I love this series. The books have gotten longer and longer the more this series goes on, but there is such great character development. Inspector Lynley is a fascinating character. He's an Earl who really takes his job as an inspector with the police very seriously. But, you know, there are many of his co-workers who wonder, you know, where his real loyalties lie. His partner, Barbara Havers, is fantastic. She is very working class. And so the two of them are such a great partnership. It's such a good series. So A Great Deliverance is the first book in the series. Payment in Blood, Well Schooled in Murder, A Suitable Vengeance, and continuing on. So there you have it. Those are my recommendations, the last of my recommendations for Cloak and Dagger Christmas. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. And I would love it if you could also recommend a mystery to me with nobility in it, because I always love getting recommendations from you. And I will see you for another video soon. Bye.